We continue into this space of wondering and contemplation. We'll take a few moments just to reflect on our text together and then turn towards a little bit of an intentional time of meditation and practice. So recalling our story that we heard just recently this morning, Mary and Martha, is certainly a familiar one. Perhaps one that at times gets oversimplified as a sort of a dichotomy between contemplation and service or action. We could say that Mary and Martha embody different aspects or perhaps maybe different orientations towards discipleship. Mary as a sort of a contemplative and Martha as a action-oriented faith. Mary studies and sits at the feet of the teacher, whereas Martha attends to the needs of the teacher and the community of faith. Unfortunately, some over the years have sort of suggested that Martha is in some ways a lesser character or less faithful in her orientation, but I think that that's a misreading of this text. While the sisters do embody different ways of expressing their faith, both action and contemplation are seen as good here. Martha is doing good by attending to the teacher and the community's needs. Mary is doing a good thing by sitting at the feet of the teacher. Still, Jesus does offer a gentle correction to Martha that she has become worried and distracted by many things. So the issue is not that Martha is busy, but that she has kind of become distracted and anxious. And we might think of these things as sort of primarily a cognitive disposition, like one's mind is wandering, but Jesus isn't correcting Martha for, daydreaming or multitasking. Rather, the issue is that Martha has lost sight of her spiritual focus, her lost sight on being focused on the guest, on Jesus. She is no longer centered or grounded, but instead has kind of gotten swept up and carried away in her frustrations. I love that image in that prayer of confession of being tugged almost by a leash. The issue is not that Martha is busy, but that she is no longer spiritually centered as she acts. Theologian John Shea points out that when we hear that Mary has chosen the better part, that perhaps a more accurate translation of that word would be the good part. Mary has chosen the good part, meaning the connection to God, who is good, who is the ground and the energy of our action. Martha can have the good part while acting in service. She simply has just lost the connection to it. Jesus is not praising contemplation over action, but rather is instructing both to be done in a way that is centered, that is grounded and connected to God. So the issue is not contemplation over and against action, but rather that action perhaps is best done contemplatively, through and sustained by our connection to God. If you happen to read the e-news this week, I wrote a brief reflection where I kind of shared some of the conversations that I've been hearing here in the wider denomination, where it seems like many are sort of struggling to know how it is that we act and live out faithfully in these kind of difficult and disorienting times. And that is a bigger conversation than we can hold space for in this moment. Rather, what we can do in this moment is practice connecting to the good, to God. Having been involved in activism for a long time, one thing I do know is that to do justice work or service work requires us to be spiritually grounded, to be connected to our source of sustenance, and to engage in listening to the Spirit as we discern the way forward. Justice work, service to others, even service in our congregations or our loved one requires us to also fill our own cup so that we are able to sustain that work. We need to attend to our own emotional regulation, to our own well-being, and to sustain ourselves in the work. We need to cultivate discernment and listen to the Spirit, to our own inner wisdom, and to the wisdom of community, so that we can act with intention and with focus. Mary and Martha are both doing a good thing. Martha only needs to return her focus in her spirit, to recenter, to reconnect to the good, to God, the source that sustains an active faith. So in our time together, I want to invite you to practice this, to take a few moments in this space to recenter ourselves and to connect to the good, to God, and to simply just receive in this moment. We're going to do a practice. I'm adapting a little bit from cognitively based compassion training, or CBCT. You might hear both me and Maureen are trained in that, so if you have questions, either of us are happy to talk about that. And in this practice together, I'm going to invite you to recall a moment of nurture. And this can be any moment, real or an imagined moment, where you felt safer, calmer, at ease. It can be a moment with others where you felt nurtured by another person, like an act of compassion or kindness. It can be a moment from your faith. It can also be a moment of nature or even with a pet. But in these moments, we are sort of able to cultivate a sense of receiving and safety. Since we are in a spiritual community, I'll invite you, if it feels comfortable to you, you might choose a moment where you felt particularly close to God, perhaps on a retreat space, or for many of us, even sitting in this space can be one of those moments. Invite that to be something that you could use for this moment of nurture together. But it is your choice what feels nurturing to you in this moment. So with that, I invite you to find a posture that feels both comfortable and at ease, but also allows you to stay alert. And if you like, you can close your eyes or simply soften your gaze. You can also leave your eyes open. Look out into nature if that also is centering for you. And perhaps to begin, just drawing attention to the places where your body makes contact with the surfaces around you. So perhaps your feet on the floor, the weight of your body in your chair, hands resting on your lap. Just noticing those sensations of touch. Noticing if any of those sensations are pleasant or neutral. And just sustaining your attention for a few moments on those sensations that are pleasant or neutral. Just allowing the sensations of touch or gravity to bring you a bit more into this present moment. Knowing that if any time your mind begins to wander, that's okay. You can simply bring it back. And when you're ready, I invite you to call to mind a moment of nurture A moment where you feel safe, at peace, loved. If you like, you can choose a moment where you felt particularly aware of God's presence or God's care or the care of God's people. And when you have settled on that moment, I invite you to just bring it to mind as vividly as you can. Recalling any sights or sounds, what colors you saw, textures, perhaps even if there were scents or smells, what smells were there? If this moment involves others, you might recall the expressions on their face, the sound of their voice. Just seeing if you can bring it as vividly to mind as if you were in that moment. If at any time your mind drifts off, you can simply return it back to this moment in your mind. And as you allow yourself to rest in this nurture, perhaps just noticing if anything has shifted in you, any increased sense of ease, perhaps a sense of warmth. I invite you to consider how important these moments are for our own well-being and for others. And having taken this time to rest in this nurture, to cultivate our own well-being, I invite you to imagine how you might extend this care, this nurture outward. How it might just allow it to extend from you almost like a ripple of compassion. And if it feels comfortable to do so, you might pause and set an intention to extend this nurture that you have received to others in service. You need not seek to do everything, but perhaps simply just the next right thing. When you're ready, you can return your attention back to this space as we continue in our meditation through song.
I invite you, if you'd like, to sing the chorus with me once you become familiar with it. Spirit of God in the clear running water, flowing to greatness, the trees on the hills. Spirit of God in the finger of morning, fill the earth, bring it to birth, and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till we be but the breath of the Spirit blowing in us. Down in the meadows, the willows are moaning. Sheep in the pasture, the land can be still. Spirit of God, creation is groaning. Fill the earth, bring it to birth, and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till we be but the breath of the Spirit blowing in us. Spirit of God, every heart is lonely, watching and waiting and hungry until. Spirit of God, we long for you breath.